Good morning. A very warm welcome to all of you who are attending this morning. We are very excited about this event. My name is Lisa Daisel. I'm from the Unisa Directorate for Counselling and Career Development. With me, I've got colleagues from our Directorate as well as colleagues from the Department of Communication Science. This is a joint seminar that we've arranged with the Department of Communication Science, and it's about navigating job readiness in a changing world. Just a couple of announcements before we start with the formal program. So you will note that your camera and microphone are currently disabled, but we will enable these during the Q&A session. You're welcome to post any questions or comments that you have during the presentation in the chat. Please do not share any personal information, that is your email address, telephone number, in the chat or the Q&A. This is just to protect your privacy. We are recording the session and you will receive an email with a link to the recording as soon as this meeting is over. We will also be posting an edited version of the seminar on our YouTube channel that we will share with you throughout the session. So just a short overview of our program. We will be inviting Professor Mukutwana from the Department of Communication Science to do the opening and welcome for us. Then Mrs. Manda Makanya will be introducing our speaker. Our speaker is Mr. Amos Kova, and he will be presenting on navigating job readiness in a changing world. I will then facilitate the question and answer session. We will also be sharing shortly about the counselling and career development services that are available at Unisa, and we will end with a thank you, and the program is planned to stop at 12 o'clock. So with that, Prof. Mukutwana, I welcome you. If you could please do the opening and welcome for us.
All right, with pleasure. Let me just try and see if I can get to the camera. All right, thank you so much, Ms. Leza. We appreciate that you have done this for the department and the students community at large. I just want to take the opportunity to say to you all, good morning. Actually, my camera is a bit problematic. To just say good morning to all the students and colleagues. So I take extreme pleasure in welcoming you today. And first, I would like to show gratitude to the organizing committee, Mr. Sundani, Mr. Mpaha, under the leadership of Professor Muzanani, who saw fit that they put together such an important co-curricular initiative for our students in the WIL program, and also to the student community at large. So this demonstrates the dedication and concern that our academics have for our students in the Department of Communication Science. So I take the pleasure also to welcome the students to this space. Also a grand welcome to the speaker, the founder of the South African Professional Network Association, SAPNA, for honoring the invite and to talk to our students about navigating job readiness in a changing world. So thank you so much to Mr. Amos Kova for being available. And also to you guys at the Counselling and Career Development Directorate. The concerns that you have for our student is really commendable, and for that I am grateful. The concept of graduateness reveal a significant preoccupation with the graduate employability. And indeed, universities, as the department, we are responsible for producing versatile and employable graduates to contribute to the future of work. The future of work, it is changing constantly, and students need to keep up with changing technologies, changing conceptuation of what work mean, entrepreneurship, what a person can do to put a plate on the table and also to thrive. So there must not be a disconnect between what the universities are producing and what employers want. So we are constantly at pressure to close the social gap. However, universities are not merely for producing graduates for the workforce. The socialization element and the knowledge creation for innovation as a social good is equally imperative. So the life experiences that students acquire through co-curricular activities such as this are invaluable. They are so valuable, and it is through this networking of being in the same space with each other as students and also with the academics that are leading us, and also with the industry that we find our path. So the experiences that students acquire through these co-curricular activities, guys, they are good. So please feel welcome to engage and also to contribute to the discussion today. So back to you, Program Director.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mokotwana. I'm now going to ask my colleague, Mrs. Mandu Makanya, if she could just introduce our speaker to us.
Thank you, Lisa. A very good morning to Prof. Mokotwana and colleagues at the Communication Science Department. Lisa, my colleague, students and all the attendees today. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker for the day. Okay, he is the South African Professionals Network Association founder. This is a networking and empowering organization for professionals in occupations and entrepreneurs. SAPNA, as it well known, supports the development of the professionals and entrepreneurs by creating engaging opportunities through networking events, empowerment programs, mentorship, and community. He is also the CEO of AMAVA Talent, which is a 100% Black-owned and managed company which specializes in talent acquisition, executive search, training, and consulting. This organization enables organizations to attract, develop, retain the right talent by matching the right talent to the right opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, his background as a graduate recruitment manager at Nedbank, as well as education manager at CIMA, project manager at SAICA, and his work in the hospitality industry, firmly commends his skills in the field of recruitment and talent sourcing. And ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, please let us put our hands together as we welcome on stage our guest speaker, Mr. Amos Kova, to our virtual podium. Mr. Amos Kova, you're welcome, sir. Thank you, Lisa.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I hope I'm audible. Good morning. Mem Makanya, thank you so much for a beautiful introduction. I am grateful to be here today. I thank God for the privilege of being able to share with graduates and students today. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, thank you, Amos.
Fantastic. So part of aging to the young people is that you get to a point where your eyes start letting you down. You have to use 2-3 different pairs of glasses. I'm also using 3 screens today, believe it or not. So when it looks like I'm looking at an awkward position, it's not because my eyes are squint or anything, but it's because I'm navigating 3 screens. So I'm excited to be here today. What I'm going to cover, so the brief was that I should be talking on navigating job readiness in a changing world. There's an awful lot to say, but I've tried to narrow it down to a couple of topics and themes today. Please let me know if you're able to see my screen and my presentation.
Thumbs up. Thank you, Amos.
Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to talk around navigating job readiness in a changing world and environment, equipping South African future workforce with skills, strategies, and success tips and information. So please, can we take this as an interactive session? Feel free to stop me, raise your hand. Lisa, you will help me as usual because I can only see my presentation. I can't see the interaction in the background. You let me know when we can pause for questions. So I have an hour, and within this hour, I'm going to cover the following. I would like you to gain an understanding of the future of work. Now, for some of us who are kind of working towards the end of our careers, there's a lot of change that we have to deal with. I have 2 boys that are in high school, for instance, and I've had to educate myself on how to equip them, how to support them on their career choices. Because the things that were maybe popular back in my day and, as I was working, they're no longer popular now. And there are so many new things that have come into, the world of work. I'm also going to talk about building a strong personal brand, because getting the right qualification or doing the right qualification is only part of what will make you successful. Once you've gotten that qualification, you then need to brand yourself or position yourself as a brand that stands out. So how are you going to do that on social media, on LinkedIn? What is it in your profile that will look different? And then I'll talk briefly about developing in-demand skills, both soft and technical skills. And then number 4, we will also talk about employer expectations. Specifically from a recruitment perspective, because that's what I do full-time. What are the things that employers and recruiters expect to see in your profile and CV, and how should you position it in such a way that it stands out? I often share this interesting stat with grads to say that an employer on average literally spends a couple of seconds looking through your CV. And just to give you some context, let's say you've got a role for, I'll just make an example, an HRBP or an engineering candidate. You are likely to get hundreds of CVs for one role. So there's really no time to sit and read through every single CV. The amount of seconds it takes is about 10 seconds roughly that you glance through a CV. And when you glance through a CV, you're literally looking at things that will jump at you. So the way you've written it, the way you've arranged the information, the way you've elevated your key performance areas, your key achievements, etc., will determine whether that recruiter or that employer ends up spending more time on your CV. If it's bland, boring, the same as everybody else, you literally glance through it and you throw it to one side. So hopefully at the end of this presentation, you'll know what it is that you need to include to make yourself stand out and unique. And then lastly, I'm just going to touch on the importance of professional etiquette and workplace readiness. Now, these 5 points are intertwined and they talk to each other. Like we said, first of all, you need to understand the world of work. What are the skills, the qualifications, how you access opportunities? Number 2, how do you position yourself as a brand? then what is it in your CV? What are the skills that you have? Do you understand the expectations of the employer? And then lastly, but most importantly, what are the professional etiquette, workplace readiness skills that you have that will seal you as a deal? Now, often in recruitment, we hear the term rough diamond. You come across young people who have the right qualification, who can twang, who've gone to maybe a private schooling or good schooling system, but they're still a bit rough around the edges. What smoothens you and what completes you as a package are your professional etiquette and workplace readiness skills. So it's really important to understand what those skills are. I've seen, and I continue to see, a lot of young people who tick all of the boxes in terms of qualifications, schools they went to, and then they mess it up on the professional etiquette. And that unfortunately costs them their opportunity. So that's what I'm going to cover. Any questions at this point?
Amos, I
Awesome.
just want to say to those who are, when you invite for questions, you could either post in the chat, or if you want to ask your question live, you could just raise your hand in Teams, and then I will unmute your or enable your microphone. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, I'm going to start off by talking about the impact of technology, AI, and automation on job opportunities. Now, this is something that some parts of the world have embraced quite beautifully. And they think ahead, they work ahead. But unfortunately, we see cases in Africa where we try and work against the development and, the introduction of technology. Whether we like it or not, there will come a point where we all need to embrace this. And the sooner we can do it, the better for us. I mean, as I said, myself, in where I am in my career and age, I'm learning on a daily basis how to use technology, AI, etc., to make my life easy, and also think outside the box. So let's look at a global perspective first. Automation and AI are transforming so many industries worldwide, leading to some job cuts or creation of new jobs. Like I said to you with my own boys, there are careers and job opportunities that are big that never existed back in the day. I remember last year, one of my friend's fathers that I met is a guy who had a business that operates drones, industrial drones. Now, both my kids, when they were growing up, had their own drones that they were playing with. They weren't commercial, obviously, but if you look at things like PlayStation and games that they play, who would have thought that profitable careers would come out of those? Because this parent was telling me that he's got these massive drones, the drones that corporates use, governments use. For instance, if he goes, they have to go underground, or they go into these, what do you call them? Like the towers that you have in Soweto, for instance, those 2 towers, or wherever there's a power station. If there's something wrong in there, they use drones to go down there. And some of these drones apparently are so expensive. They're huge, they're imported. It's a profitable business. Recently, I visited a factory in Cosmos City that produces sauce and spices, and I spoke to the owner. He said they cut their staff complement by 50%. And the reason why they're doing that is not because they hate people, but they want to achieve efficiencies. You use robots, you use machines, because machines, whether we like it or not, are more reliable than people. They don't have off days, sick days, days where they don't show up, they never late, So you're able to produce better and compete globally. We all see the impact of Chinese imports into Africa, for instance. And that's because China is able to run productivity or production that's much more efficient than the labor-intensive, reliant one that we used to in Africa. And I understand where we're coming from. We want people to work, but are we able to compete globally? In the South African context, studies indicate that approximately 48% of employment in South Africa could be compromised, affecting particularly low-skilled workers. Now, we all know the stats around graduate unemployment. I don't need to repeat them. They're the highest in the world. Now that we're saying approximately 48% will further be compromised, especially at the lower skilled. It should be an area of concern for our government. But obviously, we're not talking to government now. We're talking to young people who have the opportunity to choose where they want to end up, because we can't rely on government, but we can rely on us doing the research and making sure that we end up in the right career. Now, this stat comes from UCT's Commerce Department. And then in terms of recent developments, I'm not sure if you saw in the news, Microsoft recently invested 5.4 billion rand in AI infrastructure in South Africa, which really shows the significance of AI in the region. We deal with a lot of people who send us their CVs. And I often say to candidates, there is no excuse of using an outdated CV format. You can't show me a CV that's stuck in the 1980s. There's really no excuse for that, because AI, there's so many platforms that are free online that can help you to produce a very good CV. Now, continuing on this, I want to talk about the rise of remote work in the gig economy. I had the privilege of being a CEO of a tech company a couple of years ago, a company called Registry, which was a 100% remote company. Now, as young people who are about to leave the world of work, I think it's important for you to equip yourself with the right information and skills for you to be aware of what's happening in the remote work world of work. Now, there's been a global shift since COVID-19, obviously, where a lot of companies were forced. Some were more proactive in terms of adopting remote work strategies. Remote work has become very attractive. I started working from home in 2017. When COVID hit and people were panicking and stressing about remote work, I was already very much settled. In fact, I have never done anything other than remote working, and I don't see myself not working remotely. So personally, the benefits to me of remote working is the flexibility. When I need to go and watch the kids' cricket, soccer, netball, whatever it may be, I can work from anywhere. As long as I have my phone or I have my laptop, I have connectivity, I can sit in a coffee shop. For instance, if I drop kids at school and there's a bit of traffic, I pull into a coffee shop, work for a couple of hours, and then, continue my journey back. At home, you can cook, you can clean, you can, do your garden in between. However, here's the thing though. Some people struggle with remote working. One of my clients recently had a whole team of case managers that we recruited and that we placed that moved back home. And we had to equip these people with the right information and skills on how to work remotely successfully. So working remotely takes a lot of discipline. You need to manage your own time. You need to manage your own targets. You need to be proactive. If you have a problem, speak up to your line manager. Don't go AWOL and wait for them to tell you you're behind with your targets. There's a client who's complaining about this, etc. The other thing that's worth mentioning about global remote working is that when you're a manager, and this is what I learned, manager or people leader, the skills required to inspire, motivate, and lead teams remotely is very different, or those skills are very different to normal face-to-face. So we've had to learn as well. How do I manage my team? Because I can't micromanage them. I can't call them and send them emails 5 times a day. How do I set targets, goals, and I track those? And I equip people on how to manage their own space and time as well. In terms of South African trends, the gig economy is expanding with platforms like Sweep South, offering so many good opportunities. I've seen so many young people who have made so much money through Take a Lot, for instance, and just being smart, thinking outside of the box. Because what the gig economy does, or what the shift to remote working and AI have done, is that it has expanded the marketplace and given you access to a global access to clients. So that means that we need to shift the way we position ourselves as brands and our products, and equip ourselves to serve a much bigger network. So I don't know if that makes sense. What are the implications? While this is all offering flexibility, gig work also presents challenges such as job security and, in some cases, easier access to jobs. Let me talk about job security, for instance. When I was working for Registry, which was a tech company, had it been before COVID, we would have only recruited people who are based in Joburg. Let's say we had a physical office here. But the benefit of us being a remote company is that we didn't care where you sat, where you worked from. I mean, we had one guy who sat in Limpopo, we had quite a few in Cape Town, we had a few in Joburg, we had one guy in the US, we had one in the Netherlands, we had a couple of guys on the continent. So what this does is that it creates a much bigger platform for competition. So when you think you're only competing with people on in South Africa, when it comes to the gig economy, it makes competition much tougher. Therefore, there's a bigger talent pool. If people mess you around, you drop them. You get rid of people, you replace them quickly. So this means that though it brings you flexibility, you need to deliver, because we found that a lot of the skills we were getting were based in India. Now, when it comes to IT skills, those guys are some of the best in the world. And you find that our guys who are based here are way behind on the kind of skills that they have. So make sure that if you're going to end up in this space, make sure that you are globally competitive in terms of your skills, you're available. Also, I mean, with the time differences, I've got clients now that I work with that are based in Malaysia, Singapore. I wake up very early. Then I've got those in Australia or in the US that I serve later. Have that flexibility to know that you can literally work around the clock to service clients and make money. Industry trends in South Africa and globally. There are some growing sectors like technology, renewable energy, healthcare. I mean, it's fascinating for me in that in our recruitment business, our niche is actually the health sector. When we started off about 3-4 years ago, we established the business that exported doctors out of South Africa. The company itself, though, we started in 2017. Then we evolved into focusing on the medical aid space, where we place nurses and doctors. But what's fascinating now is that there's a lot of e-health, where doctors can consult virtually, where nurses can consult and support you virtually. And that's the future. You don't have to physically wake up and drive across town to your doctor. You can find someone where you can switch on a camera, they can assist you. So yeah. In terms of declines, just ending off on this slide before I check if there are any questions. So some of the declining sectors include jobs that are reliant on routine tasks, where there are opportunities to bring in automation. If you look at the beverage manufacturing industry in Gauteng and Mpumalanga, there's a lot of automation that has created new jobs in IT, but also who have kind of gotten rid of some of the low-skilled position and jobs. Any questions so far?
I don't see any hands for now or questions, Amos.
Cool, thank you. Now, let me move on to building a strong personal brand and how that should be reflected in your CV. And on this topic, I'm going to go back right to the beginning. Obviously, you all will be using a CV to apply for jobs. So, right. Number one, on your CV, you need to ensure that you highlight the relevant and the right skills and achievements for a particular job. One of the things that we do for our candidates and clients, is that when a client is applying for several jobs, we're able to tailor the CV to speak to each of those jobs. We do covering letters that are tailored to each role, which highlights different skills and experiences. There is no way, and I've seen this with young people, and I know we become desperate. You look for a job 6 months, a year, 2 years, or 3 years later, you're still looking. You get to a point where you just send bulk emails and CVs to employers. There is no way you can use the same CV for different jobs. You need to highlight the relevant skills and achievements, number one. Number two, most employers these days, if they're interested in you, will go to social media and check your social media footprint. They will check what you post on LinkedIn. They will check what you say on other social media platforms. When it comes to LinkedIn, though, that's the preferred professional platform that most people use. Therefore, it's important to firstly look the part. I have it might be a silly rule, but I have a rule. If somebody tries to connect with me on LinkedIn, if there's no picture, I don't accept you. As simple as that. So you need to have a professional looking photo first. Number two, make sure you have an engaging summary of who you are as a person. We don't want to read through all of your experience, but just a paragraph. Who you are. Are you a recent graduate? What are you looking for? What did you study? Are you a young professional who's trying to build your career in this area, etc.? What is the experience that you've got? What are the skills? What have you done? What are the projects you've worked on, etc.? Have something that summarizes who you are in terms of your experience. Number 3, it is very important, it is critical to network and have a personal brand. The reason why I started a networking organization 11 years ago was because I felt that there aren't enough credible platforms where young people can network with like-minded professionals. Now things have changed. You've got online networking platforms, you've got LinkedIn. Make sure that you use it for what it's meant for. It's not a dating site. It's not where you boast and show off. You still need an element of privacy when it comes to who you are. The world we live in is messed up. Some people track and follow you and see where you are. Try not to overshare. Share what's relevant, and you should be sharing information that your future employer would like and would want to engage you. Networking. When it comes to networking, it's important to attend industry relevant events where you can engage with professionals, either face-to-face or on professional platforms. And then when it comes to personal branding, what's critical is consistency. You need to consistently present your professional identity across all platforms. I always say to grads, you can't look professional and great on LinkedIn, and then on Facebook, you are completely loose and a different person. And then we go to, what are the other ones called? X and Instagram, and there you are just totally something else. So try and find consistency in what you share, what your interests are, the look and feel, what represents you as a young person, and then leveraging social media for personal growth. Social media is designed to put you out there on all platforms consistently, and for you to learn and grow professionally as well. If you follow the right people, if you read up about the right people, you will grow professionally. But there's also a lot of nonsense in between that you just need to skip and not spend and waste a lot of your time on it. I recommend that you use Twitter and LinkedIn to share industry insights, any research that you've done, presentations that you've done, conferences that you've attended, etc. In terms of content sharing, please post articles and achievement that are relevant, professional, and that showcase your own expertise. There are specific groups that you can follow and that you can post to, because those people have joined those groups specifically looking for certain information. They will engage you on it because it's relevant to them. And same thing applies to you. If you find relevant information, follow those people, engage them, contact their company, set up, meetings, get their email addresses. People are more than welcome to engage you professionally on what they do. Effective self-presentation in interviews and professional settings. We underestimate the importance of how you present yourself. First impressions at interviews, when you attend a formal event, how you are dressed, how you speak to people. The fact that you never know who is listening. You'll be very surprised that you're engaging in a group of young people and there's one person in there who could be your future employer. So I always say, put your best foot forward, always be humble, and don't overshare, because you could be talking about your current job, about how much you don't like it, how bad your manager is. You just don't know. Their client could be there, or they could be a client of somebody who's there. And then in terms of preparation, research the company, enroll thoroughly. I get some feedback from clients where they said to me, we asked this person about our company and they couldn't tell us anything. So I don't get that. How can you apply to a company and you haven't done any research about who the leaders are, what key projects they're running, what's their social impact strategy, you know, a lot of this information that's out there, what's the share price of the company, and things like those. So make sure that you do your research, you know, the fact that you've taken the time to read up about the company says a lot. It says that you have an interest and you're serious about, you know, getting into the company. And then lastly, in terms of communication, demonstrate active listening and articulate your responses. When you listen attentively, people can tell there's no distractions. You're not looking at your phone. You're not, you know, gazing outside, and they can tell in your eye movement as well. When you're listening attentively and you're not listening, while you're listening, you're formulating your response, people can tell. And never put yourself under pressure in an interview. You don't have to rush your response. If they ask you a question, you don't have to answer immediately. Take the time to pause and think, reflect, you know, take a sip or just think about your responses. I think one of the things we need to overcome in interviews is to fear silence. There's nothing wrong with silence. You don't have to fill it with you know, your voice, because when you do that, you will fall into the trap of just talking anything. So make sure you listen attentively, think about your responses, and without overthinking, and formulate constructive responses. Because you're nervous, right? When you're nervous, your mind works over time. So use the opportunity to slow yourself down. Any questions at this point?
Amos, there's just a question. You did mention the LinkedIn profile, and although this is a seminar on its own, if you could just shortly comment on the importance of a LinkedIn profile, what should I include to make it stand out? And my additional question is also, what should I be doing on LinkedIn? You know, just a few tips about that. And then there's a second question about how to tailor my CV and cover letter for different industries or job roles.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Let me start with a LinkedIn question. You know that your LinkedIn profile should match your CV, right? So here's what you do with your CV. Angeti, your CV tells your story. And I'm going to go into this now, but I'm going to just go through it really quickly. Make sure that you organize your CV starting with the most recent jobs. Apart from just mentioning what you did in that role, also include your key achievements, because people want to see that. So on your LinkedIn profile, you do the same thing. I've already mentioned you'll have a nice professional looking photo. You'll have a summary that summarizes who you are and what skills and attributes you have. And then it's important to have the dates right of every single job that you've been in. Under each job, you put in those key achievements and what you did. So your LinkedIn profile should match what you have on your CV. What we do as recruiters, before we ask you for your CV, is that we go to your LinkedIn profile. We see, oh, okay, his title is digital manager, for instance, or digital specialist. Okay, they've worked at this company for this long. This is what they've done. These are the projects they've done. Before that, they had a different job title. Then you go to their education. Oh, they did this qualification. So you complete the work section, employment section. You also fill out your qualifications so that we can see the full story. So that's how I think you should do your CV. Then the other part of your question, Lisa, sorry, that's on, just repeat the last part of the question.
So it's your profile, but also what are some of the things that you can do on LinkedIn to strengthen this idea of your personal brand and matching, for example, your CV and your networking and all of those aspects?
Perfect. Thank you. You've just jogged my memory as well on the other part of the question. So what are the things that you can do? And also in terms of the highlighting, I think the relevant work experience. So like I said, for LinkedIn, you need to share what's relevant to your profile. If I am a communication specialist, whatever articles that I'm reading that are relevant, whoever that I'm following who's big on communication, those are the things that I share. Whatever I'm learning at work, what I'm experiencing, whatever I found fascinating, you can comment about, or just sharing your own journey and experience. That's what people relate to. So find things that are relevant, find things that other professionals that are in the same space of work or line of work will find interesting. Yeah, and just don't fall for the trap of just sharing for the sake of sharing.
Thank you, Amos. I see that you are going to share about the CV now.
Yes.
Maybe the next question, I'm not sure if you prepared it as part of your slideshow, but also if there's a question about if I'm a fresh student with no experience, what can be substituted with on LinkedIn, but it also then refers to the CV. So
Yeah.
how do you address the question of not necessarily having formal work experience?
Let me start with that question before I go into this. Remember, guys, when you start out in your career, you can't have a long CV, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a short CV because you haven't worked before. Therefore, you need to highlight your other skills, your passion, your interests to go into certain career, what you've read, workplace readiness programs that you've done, volunteer work. So this I often say to first-year students, get busy at university because you don't want to get to your final year and discover that like you've got nothing that looks attractive. Do volunteer work, do tutoring or whatever you're passionate about, because you can't fake work experience. We know that you are starting out, your CV is going to be kind of empty, so is your LinkedIn profile, but you could highlight your personal interests, what you're passionate about, what you've done as a volunteer, and all of those things that I hope are making sense. And then later on in your career, as you gain work experience, your CV will become fuller. So just briefly on a CV, curriculum vitae is a Latin word that means course of life. So this is a written description of your work experience, educational background, and skills that you have. It's also a living document. As you gain more experience, you reflect on the developments in your career, you add more information. So it's a document that's growing all the time. The purpose of a CV is that it's a marketing tool of who you are, what your accomplishments are, and the skills and potential that you have as an individual. It's also the document that you use to request an interview with. So it goes ahead of you and it markets you. It's also a snapshot of your professional and academic life. And I use the word snapshot because if you look at your CV today as a snapshot, it will show the current experience that you have. But if you take a snapshot 10 years from now, it's going to be very different. There's a lot you would have picked up, so make sure you reflect all of those changes in your CV. Let me talk briefly about what employers look for in a CV. Number one, career continuity. It takes time to learn the ropes in any new job, to carve a place within a team, one whose career trajectory shows frequent jumps is most likely not to be attractive to employers, because employers would think that you don't have the determination and the stamina to stick, especially through difficult times. So make sure that you stay at least 2 to 3 years in a job. I would say a minimum of 3 years for you not to be seen as a hopper. Now, any employer and recruiter, when they go through a CV and they see that every 2 years, 1 year, you have another job, they're not interested in you. And I would like to share this to say that I see it with our young people. I know it's tough out there, but I feel that our generation, or this current generation, gives up way too easily. Guys, it's tough in any work environment. You can't leave a job just because you've got a horrible boss or some people are nasty to you. You're going to go to another company and find the same thing. We need to train ourselves to be a little bit more resilient. And I'm not saying you should tolerate abuse and all of those, but resilience builds character. I've seen it so many times where I tolerated horrible, nasty environments. When I come out of there, I've got a lot more character. I'm stronger and it prepares me for the next challenge in my career. Customization that we spoke about, this was your other question, Lisa. How do you customize CVs and covering letters for jobs? I'm going to say it's simple because I work in recruitment. When you customize your CV and covering letter for a job, you look at the job advert, you look at the job spec and what they're looking for, the skills that they're looking for, the attributes, the qualifications. What you do in your covering letter, you highlight those things. These are the qualifications that I hold. I believe they stand me in good stead. This is the work experience that I've picked up. These are the projects that I've done. And you show the skills and achievements that you've acquired. I hope that makes sense. Number 3, let me talk about effective communication. Recruiters like clearly written out CVs. Nobody likes a CV that's full of errors. The minute you see that, you throw it aside and you move on to the next one. Make sure you double, triple check. You can use programs like Grammarly, what's the other one called, ChatGPT, to help you with your grammar, formulating the right sentences, constructing the right sentences. If you're going to include an objective statement in your CV, it needs to show your strengths, your background, you highlight your skills, the industries that you've worked in. If this is well written, if your CV is well written, the recruiter will definitely be interested. They will spend more time on it. The worst CVs that we see are the ones that start with, at the end, like with your first job and your current job is right at the end. We want to start with current and work our way back. We want to see what you're doing now, and then in chronological order, have your jobs, have the dates correct as well, because we want to see the journey that you've traveled. Choose the right font. Don't have too many colors. Keep it simple. There are so many free templates that you can use these days that will help you have an attractive CV. Josh Billings' quotation says, "There's great power in words if you don't hitch too many of them together." So remember I said in the interview context, you also should not be scared of silent moments. Same thing in your CV. CV needs to have some blank and open white spaces. So it's easy on the eye, it's easy to read. Don't cramp too much information in. Just try and rearrange it so it looks attractive. Number 4, the ability to follow instructions. When you are being hired, especially for remote working positions, the first thing that employer would look at is your ability to follow instructions, because nobody has got time to retrain, reshare, ask you to redo information. So some of the basic tests are, if you're applying for a job and you're asked to include a covering letter, or respond by sharing your copies of qualifications, etc. When you fail to do those things already, the employer or the recruiter is not interested. If you can't respond to my advert on time, if you can't give me your references or whatever I'm asking for, what are you going to do when you start work? Same thing. You don't take instructions serious, so try and get it right while you are applying. Number 5, previous job descriptions. So some candidates will literally list their job description in their duties. That's a trap where, like I said to you, you match your covering letter and your CV to what the employer is looking for, but don't cut and paste the thing. Don't literally cut and paste it, because that's going to show the employer that you're looking at shortcuts. So word it correctly so it speaks to what they're looking for. Also, make sure that you get your tenses right. If it's a job that you had in the past, past tense. If it's a current job that you have, present tense or present continuous tense, whatever it may be. So get the language right. Number 6, sense of authenticity and self. Recruiters see a lot of CVs. A lot of CVs of people with the same qualifications. So the best thing to do is to be yourself. Be authentic, be yourself, especially when you talk about yourself, just be real, because when you're being authentic, it resonates with people. People connect with you, not when you're telling them what you think they want to hear about you. All of the "I'm a hard worker" things, I love this kind of work and that. No, just talk about your own journey, who you are, how you got here, and what your your interests are. I'm looking at the time. We don't have a lot of time left. I just want to check if there are any other questions and quickly see if there's anything else I just want to close with.
Thank you, Amos. There are a couple of questions, and Nandipa has also been patiently waiting with her hand up. Nandipa, you are welcome to unmute and ask your question. Nandipa?
Nandipa, apologies for making you wait. You can ask your question.
If you, I have enabled your microphone. If you are struggling, you're welcome to post your question in the chat. So while we are waiting for you, Bongani, your hand is up. Let me just allow your mic. Bongani, you're welcome to unmute and ask your question. Bongani? Okay, so the same applies for you. If you are struggling, please feel free to post in the chat while we wait. Okay, Khutsitsile, let me also allow your mic. Khutsitsile?
Hi. Hello,
Hello.
guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you guys for this opportunity. I've been like listening to the presentation, and I just understand something on my CV that makes me like not be interesting. However, I don't know if you can also help us upload the presentation on the resources that we can go through when I do the rubric check on my CV, please.
Okay, so you're asking for us to share the presentation with you.
Yes.
Amos, we are recording the session, but Amos, if you agree, you can also send me your presentation. I could share it with everyone who
Yes, I
attended.
can. No problem whatsoever. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, we've got another hand, Ntombi Nkosi. You're welcome to unmute and ask your question. Okay, also again, if you are struggling, please post in the chat. So maybe let's go back to the chat for now. Almost there, maybe a short question to start with. There was a question about what should the length of a cover letter be? If you can maybe just give some more guidance on putting together a cover letter and how long it should be.
Typically, a cover letter should be 1 page. Especially for recent graduates, because there's not going to be a lot of work experience. It will mostly be about how you are a good match to what they're looking for. The more senior you become, it can be 2 pages, but nothing more than that, because it's high level matching. The rest they will see in the CV.
Thanks, Amos.
There's another question I see.
Yeah.
How come most companies don't offer internships for first-year students? Wouldn't that be beneficial for them? Because in my thinking, first-year students are still fresh and think more out of the box, and with their help, navigation wouldn't it be helpful for both companies, being the student, and for both parties, sorry, being the student and the company? So I'm not sure how to respond to that. I think there are many reasons why some companies don't offer internships. For some, it's a budget issue. For others, it's a headcount issue. For others, is capacity. They don't have line managers who have the time to do, to mentor, to put a program in place. However, there are many companies who do offer internships. It all depends on what you've studied. One of the internships that I run in Pretoria is in the engineering and manufacturing space. We've got electrical, industrial, all sorts of engineers who are recent graduates that we manage, that we work with. So I think it's a matter of doing your research on which companies in your industry do run internships or VAC work programs and apply for those ones on time.
Thank you, Amos. I see a hand from Siamtanda. You're welcome to unmute and ask your question. Siamtanda?
Thank you so much. Good morning. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Siamtanda, like mentioned. I'm a previous student with Unisa. I am a public relations and communication specialist, currently doing my honors. My question is, when we talk about experience, I think I have about 10 years experience in working, but you'd find out when I go to interviews, I had an interview with an international company last year. I don't know if I'm allowed to call it out. Should I? I feel like I should, so that people can understand. May I?
Yeah, go ahead. It depends what you're going to say about them.
The company is Iris, and I also had an interview with Nedbank. Iris works with banks in terms of software development. It's an Australian company. It's based in Sandton. So I went through all the rounds of interviews with them. One included whereby I had to do a presentation to executives in Australia. And then my last interview was with executives in South Africa, whereby they just wanted to check if I fit in and within the culture of the team and everything. So my thing was, when we were looking at the scope of work there, they never mentioned anything about trade. And I think I went to about 5 rounds of interviews with them. They never mentioned anything about trade. I got a call the morning, I just can't remember the date, in December, that congratulations, you've received the offer. We are going to send you an offer. Right, I'm happy. And then later around 12, they called me again. Oh, Simhan, I'm sorry. Our executive, we just had a meeting and we decided that we need a person with trade experience, of which I don't have trade experience. However, earlier that day, I received a call saying that I'm successful. So how do you deal and also navigate with things like that? And also, I know with Nedbank as well, my issue there, they wanted experience in the banking sector. So as I'm saying, I've worked for about 10 years. I've managed big clients such as your Transnet, Eskom, City Park, City of Johannesburg. So I've been handling big accounts. So my issue is, how do you then handle such when you do have the experience, but then they would come to you and tell you that you don't have experience in banking. However, you are in public relations, you are in communication, you know how to build strategic relationships with your clients, you just know how to run the game. I think that is, I'm not sure if I'm making sense with my question.
Yeah, perfect sense. So, thank you so much. So it's it's often a challenge for candidates, both those who are experienced and those who have just started, where a client is looking for sector-specific experience. I mean, PR is PR, comms is comms, but some clients would like you to have industry-specific experience. And unfortunately, it's you can't, there's no other way of getting around it. If you don't have it, you don't. You can prove to the client that you've got work experience, you know PR comms, but if you don't have industry experience, the job is not for you. Simple as that. There's a reason why people look for sector-specific experience. I hope that answers your question.
A bit, I would say a bit. But it just does not make sense. I believe if you are a public relations practitioner and also you have a scope of work, job description, everything is there, right? I think like recruiters should follow that guideline. I mean, you can't come now. For example, if you invite me for an interview, why would you invite me for an interview when you know that I'm not qualified in terms of that sector, you know? Mm-hmm. And also run me through the entire process. Then at the last stage of the interview, you tell me, no, you don't have experience in trade, but you've taken me along the entire process.
Yeah. So I get that part of your question as well, Siamtanda. I know it's extremely disheartening when you get strung along. Remember, in this value chain of recruitment, there's a client who gives a brief to a recruiter. And if the recruiter fails to interpret that correctly, they're going to end up bringing along the wrong candidates, and only right at the end, when they present them to the client, would they realize that they missed the brief. So it's one of those unfortunate things. I've just shared my number on the chat, Siamtanda, 0827569676. Drop me a WhatsApp, give me a call. I think we can talk more about this. I actually just filled a comms and PR role about 2 weeks ago. So I'll be happy to look at your CV and see if there are any other opportunities we could look at.
Okay, thank you very much, Amos. Thank you for the question as well. Just in the interest of time and to give others an opportunity, I would want us to go back to, I just want to ask David, your hand is still up. You're welcome to try and unmute again if you've still got a question.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Hi,
Morning,
David.
Yes, I want to ask on the part of CV, we have so many templates of CVs. Which one do you think is correct and that the recruiters might like?
Thank you, David. So you're quite right. There are lots of different ones. So it depends on your preference in terms of what you like. But as I said, the preferred format is for you to start with a summary or objective about yourself. Then you go into your skills. What are the personal skills, the technical skills that you have? And then you go into your work experience and your qualifications. So you can really choose any one that works, but make your own life easy. Don't choose a complicated template where if you have to tweak something or add a new job, you need to redo the whole thing. The simpler, the better. 2 or 3 colors, maybe a blue, a gray, but the minute you use reds and oranges and greens, it becomes overwhelming.
Okay, I understand, sir.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, David. Amos, let's just, there's another hand up from Busisiwe Ntuli. Welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Mr. Amos, my question is on the topic of, working remotely. I noticed that you spoke about how it makes it easier for you if you're not productive enough for the company to just be like, okay, we can just replace this one and replace that one. So my question is this, that for me personally, I'm trying to get work in marketing. And so I have personally branded myself according to my own personality in terms of being a very outspoken person, and I've continually been what we say an extrovert, right? So with how the working from home thing works now is I can't really say, I have not found a way to tweak how to sell that to people, because I've been able to utilize the fact that I can impact the environment in terms of work culture, or company culture rather. And so I've been able to say, okay, because of the personality that I have, I'm able to bring a certain environment that is able to shift the way people work around me. And it just kind of I've been able to do that. So how can one now do that in terms of working from home or working remotely?
That's a very good question. Thank you. So things like culture are very difficult to impact and effect virtually. However, my experience was that the rules that you, how do I put it? The way you manage people will determine how they feel. If you try and micromanage people, or you don't show trust towards people that are working virtually, that impacts ultimately the culture that they experience. So I think it's important to have a very solid structure in place. Like, for instance, if you meet your people twice a week, have a clear understanding of the purpose of those meetings, but then in between those sessions, you use that to really connect with people on a lighter, or on a more social note. So I used to chat a lot in between on WhatsApp to people. How you doing? How's the family doing? The kids, what are you doing? What time are you picking up kids? Because sometimes people are scared to tell you that at 3 o'clock every day or 2 o'clock, I need to run out and pick up kids. They just go quiet. So rather you open up and say to them, I've got school runs at this time, I need to do something quickly. Because with remote working, people don't have to be glued to their desk for 6 hours. It's okay if they take 5 minutes, 10 minutes here and there to do things, provided that they're not going to take a full hour lunch as well. So if you show that flexibility yourself, people will feel free and they will open up, because at the end of the day, they need to see that you are human as a manager. You've got things that you do. Like I went to the gym this morning before my session, and sometimes when I connect with my colleagues, it would be just after I've come back, from the gym. And that's normal, as long as you look presentable. So I think that there are smaller ways in which you can influence that culture. But I agree with you, face-to-face is much easier than trying to do it remotely. It takes time as well to build that rapport and for people to trust you. I hope that answers your question.
Kind of. It's close.
You've got my details on there. Drop me a WhatsApp or drop me an email.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Busisiwe and Amos. Khositsile, I see that your hand is up. You are welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Hello, everyone. Am I clear correctly?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
I'm asking about the cover letter. Does
Yes.
it have a format the way it should be like, or the way it have to look like? Cover letter.
So yes, there is a format to a cover letter. I think first and foremost, it should articulate your interest in the role. So why are you interested in this role, and your intention to apply for the role? And then it goes into what are the skills, qualifications, and experience that you have that makes you the ideal candidate for the role. And then maybe you close off by confirming your availability, your interest for an interview, and you refer them maybe to the CV where you've elaborated about your experience.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm pretty sure if you use AI, you go on any of these tools, it will give you the formal structure. What I'm telling you is my experience as somebody who works with these things every day. But if I had to draft my own, I will obviously make use of AI and the right platforms to help me.
Thank you so much, Amos and Khositsile. I'm just going to run through some of the questions that's on the chat, Amos. There was a question about can we eliminate some of the work experiences on the CV so that it doesn't become too long? So I'm thinking maybe, if you're somebody who's got a number of years of experience, how do you position yourself, with your CV then?
Absolutely. If it's not relevant to the job, you don't have to include it. If you feel that what you have in your CV you've got enough substance that's relevant to the job, and the extra stuff will make it too long, then by all means take it out. However, make sure that by doing that, you don't create gaps in your CV, because you need to explain gaps. If there's a gap of 1 year between a couple of jobs, the employer is going to wonder what happened. Is this person trying to hide a job where they maybe got fired or something? So just put a note in there or explain the gaps. For instance, in my case, my CV is about, the condensed version is about 8 pages. My full CV is more than 12 pages. But again, I mean, I'm 50 years old. I started working when I was at high school. Do I include all of that in my CV? No, definitely not. Though some of the work is relevant, if I'm applying for a job in the hospitality industry, then yes, I'll include the fact that I started working at the age of 16 in hotels. So include it if it's relevant. If it's not, take it out without creating too many gaps in your CV.
Thank you very much, Amos. You know, made me also think about this issue of adjusting or kind of tailoring your CV for each position that you're applying for. And you've now spoken about, you know, your full CV could be up to 12 pages long. But I guess if you had to apply for opportunities tomorrow, you would be in a position to have all of this information ready, but you will then tailor or you will use the specific information that is relevant to the position that you are applying to. So when we talk about tailoring your CV for each different organization or position that you're applying for, it's not that you are starting, you know, from the beginning again with each application, but it's just being smart in terms of how do you keep record of your accomplishments, of the different experiences, of your qualifications and so forth. So that's also just something to keep in mind for those of us who need to update our CV regularly.
True, and just to add on that quickly, Lisa, if you don't mind. So most people have a resume, which is a shortened version of the CV, and then you have the full CV as well. That gives all the bullet points about the jobs. So the resume that you can tweak easily and keep that available when an employer wants it. But the resume is the one where all the meat is added to the roles.
Thank you, Amos. There was also a question about should you include a photo on your CV?
I recommend a photo. You don't have to. Back in the day, I don't know if you guys would remember, because it sounds like the average age in the room is much younger, apart from the exception of a few that said they've got 10 years experience. Back in the day, the CV used to have page 1, where you print in huge writing, curriculum vitae of Amos Kova, and then there's a picture of you standing under a tree, you know, with your pose, back in the 80s and 90s. But now it's different. You have a template that allows you to put a portrait image of you on the first page. And it's small as well. You don't have to do it, but I think it looks presentable when you do that.
Thank you, Amos. And I guess the same principles would apply when you spoke about the LinkedIn profile picture. You know, that it needs to be a representation of your professional persona. You know, how would you like this person seeing your CV to see you, basically? Yeah.
A simple picture. I mean, if you look at mine on LinkedIn, simple, at an event that we had, where you are presentable. You don't have to wear a suit, a shirt, and a tie. Just a nice shirt, jacket if you want to. Yeah, something presentable.
Yeah, thank you. There was also a good question here about somebody would want to know that how do you go from having a bad reputation to a good reputation in my CV? For example, if I was dismissed from my previous job, when I apply for a new job, do I also list it in my application that I was dismissed? So maybe in general, you know, that kind of information, it could be that you were dismissed. It could also, for example, be that you might have a criminal record, or
Yes.
for some positions where they would want you to go through like a credit check. You know, so that kind of information, how do you explain or how do you communicate that in this process of looking for employment?
Let me start with the last one. So COVID was very hard to most of us, if not all of us. A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people went into debt they couldn't service because they lost income, etc. So as recruiters, we deal with a lot of people who don't have good credit records, and that's normal. All that we expect of you, if you know, for instance, that you've got a listing or what is it called, a summons or something that's on your a bad or poor credit record, is that you disclose it upfront. If I am going to do your credit record, MIE background checks, I would appreciate it, and I would take it as honesty if you say to me, you can go ahead and do it. However, I know that I've got this account. I'm just using DSTV as an example, where I owed them money, or one of the banks, and they listed me. So as a recruiter, I prefer that, or as an employer, as opposed to you keeping quiet, then your credit record comes out and it doesn't look great. Do you understand the difference? Because if that's your experience, you can't hide it. You can only explain what had happened. Any employer, unless if you work in a job where you handle money, or you are entrusted to deal with cash or clients' money, if it's a normal job, I don't know, receptionist, or any job where you don't handle cash, that should not work against you. So just be honest and upfront about it. And then the first part of the question, it's very hard to, once you've been dismissed in a role, it's very hard to kind of make that sound different. So my advice normally is that if you're in a role, make sure that you don't get fired. Do whatever it takes. If it means you resign before you do that, sometimes you can see it coming. When people are trying to performance manage you, your manager is, all over you, the system is working against you. Don't sit and wait until you get fired. Resign, cut your ties, and move on, because it's hard once you have that record, that you were dismissed. It's hard to hide it. However, if it was a short job of 6 months, then take it out of your CV, or maybe up to a year as well. Then remove it from your CV. But if it was a 3-year, 5-year job and you got dismissed, then it's hard. It's very hard. So if you are in that situation, it's a tricky one. You're welcome to contact me. We can chat about it. Sometimes there would have been a CCMA case. Sometimes you would have had what they call a settlement, mutual separation. Those things you can explain. But if you're fired for, I don't know, for doing whatever, it's very tricky to hide that.
Thank you very much, Amos. There was also a question about the CV. Is it compulsory to write the responsibilities for all of the jobs that you include on your CV? So perhaps just in general, talking about when you mention, I've worked at ABC Corporation for 5 years, and all of those experiences. What do you put under each of those experiences on your CV?
So Lisa, it's very important to put responsibilities under the job. In fact, we don't work with CVs. We don't consider or shortlist or screen candidates where they have not included their roles and responsibilities. That's the only way you can tell whether the person knows the job. In some technical clinical roles like nursing, for instance, pre-auth case managers and team leads, etc., we spend a lot of time looking at those jobs. When you worked in ICU, when you worked in PEDS, for instance, what is it that you did? Can you stabilize a patient? Can you work on certain machines? What were your team leadership skills, etc.? So yes, they critically important. However, I think, like I said earlier in my slides, you don't go to the job description and copy and paste the job description, but you bullet point your experiences, the actual work that you do, because that's the only way we can tell whether you've got the depth.
Thank you, Amos. And again, the advice that you gave earlier, that it's important for you to, as you are putting together these list of responsibilities, to also consider what you understand this employer to be looking for. Because the more they see someone that they think could add value to their organization, the more interested they will be in terms of inviting you for the interview.
Absolutely. It's your job to kind of convince the employer that you've got the experience, you know the industry, you've done relevant projects. They can read your CV, but once you get to the interview, you need to seal the deal by talking facts and going into detail, giving examples. We use what we call, what is it called? Competence. Is it competency-based questions? I can't think of the term now, where you have to give a scenario. You explained what you did, what your contribution was, and what the outcomes was. So learn to also respond full in highlighting those 3 points in any question or example that you give the employer.
Thank you, Amos. There's a question here. Somebody's giving a specific example of having worked in retail for almost 9 years now, and they have a long service certificate. Should the certificate be included on the CV? So it's mentioning the certificate, but my further question is also then the question about documentation as part of the recruitment process. If you could just also comment on when that happens and how it happens.
Sure. So any qualification or short course or achievement or recognition that you get, you should mention on your CV. You don't include it in the CV, you mention it, but you have a separate document that has all your copies of qualifications. That happens later in the process. If the employer or the recruiter is interested in you, they will ask you to then send a copy of your ID, your copies of qualifications as well. So keep them, save them or scan them into a document that you can just forward to the employer.
Thank you, Amos. I'm also now thinking if you could also just comment on the references. Also when in the process, do you include it in your CV? Do you need to send it when you are being asked?
So there's been a change when it comes to references. We used to include references in the CV where you list people's names and phone numbers, etc. But the norm now is to simply say references available on request, especially for more experienced people, because it's a funny world that we live in. You might have somebody as a reference who used to be years ago employed by the same company, or somebody who doesn't have a good reputation in the industry because the industry is quite small. And that alone, by having that person, you could lose out on a job. So it is safer to just say references available on request. The employer, once they've seen your CV and they screened and they've shortlisted you, they will then say, we would like you to give us 2 or 3 references that we can contact. By that point, you would know who you're dealing with. Because remember, when you go to interviews, you can see, you know who interviewed you. If one of your references, let's use a simple example. Let's say you've got me as a reference on your CV, and you contact me and tell me you are interviewed by this company. These are the people that will interview you. If I know I had beef with that company or that one individual, I will say to you, I don't think it's wise to use me as a reference. And then you can find somebody else.
Thank you, Amos. So it's very important for you to be strategic about the people that you include as references. And
Absolutely.
I must say, as a personal experience, you know, it's very difficult if somebody includes you as a reference on their CV, but you are not aware. You know, the first thing that you get is just a phone call, you know, please comment on such and such a person, but maybe you haven't worked with this person for many years, or you haven't been keeping in touch. So that's also an important part of negotiating those references and making sure that the person understands what kind of positions you are looking for, but also who might be contacting them for references.
Yeah. And share your latest CV with the person who's your reference. Tell them the job that you've applied for, send them the job spec, so that they know when they get that call what to say. Yeah.
We are almost done. I think there's 2 last things that I would want us to attend to before we move on. There was just a question about which job search platforms are the most effective in South Africa and globally. And maybe to that point, also some emerging trends in the recruitment and hiring processes. Are there any, new developments that you can share in your space?
Sure. There are so many out there, Lisa. Obviously, I would always start with LinkedIn. LinkedIn will give you access to global jobs as well. Then there's what we call job boards, the PNets of this world. What else is there? There are quite a few local ones. If you go to Google and type in list of job boards, it will give you plenty. Then there are industry-specific ones. There are platforms for NGOs. For IT, there are specific ones. I think if you join the right groups on LinkedIn as well, let's say you're in comms or marketing, find the right groups both locally and internationally. That will give you access to the right platforms. But you definitely want to work smarter and get your jobs, your CV, your profile out there. However, I'm still old school as well. Whenever I deal with candidates who are struggling to find jobs, yes, there are all these platforms out there, but my approach normally is that make a list of the companies you would like to work for. What is your top 10, top 20 companies that you want to work for? And contact them directly. Find the HR people, go to their websites, apply for jobs, send direct emails to those people. Sometimes that's more effective than trying to be all over the place. I think it's a bit of both, because if you put your CV out there, people will notice it if they're recruiting. But if you go directly, people will also notice you because there's a job on their website, they're looking for X. You apply for the job and then you send them an email as well, introducing yourself.
Thank you, Amos. And any insights on maybe how recruitment and hiring has changed? Even maybe some future, what are some of the processes we can look forward to in the future?
Sure. So I think that the biggest change in hiring and recruitment is visibility. Visibility of you as an individual, not just you dropping your CV. The more you are seen to share industry insights, experience, the more active you are in terms of networking, all of the things that we shared, it enhances your opportunities to be seen. In fact, you need to be proactive and approach some individuals in your future employers' companies to mentor you. I mean, I did a lot of that earlier in my career, where you go to the CEO or the head of this and say to them, I would like you to mentor me. You manage the process. You see them once or twice a year. Those people are the ones that can open doors for you. Recruitment has become very, very tough. I deal with a lot of desperate people. I myself went through a 7-year process where I was unemployed. So I know what it feels like. I think what I would like to say is that the other shift that I would encourage, when it comes to finding a job or earning a living, look beyond what you studied. Sometimes you're going to start out in a totally unrelated field because you want to get in, you want a job, you want to, earn a living. And that's okay. Don't be embarrassed. Maybe you studied this and you're working as this. It's okay. You might work your way up from there. It is much easier to find a job while you're working than applying while you're unemployed. The longer you're unemployed, the harder it becomes because you've been out of the game. So I would say get in anywhere for now. Don't be picky. And then you maneuver your way once you're inside to the ideal job that you're looking for.
Thank you so much, Amos. I'm going to move on with the program, but I want to encourage you, if you have any last questions, you're welcome to post that in the chat. Then there was also a request from somebody. We heard from Siamtamta a bit earlier. He mentioned that he has 10 years experience and that he is working in the field. So there was a need for somebody like him to provide insight on breaking into the public relations world. They are a third-year student and struggling with something even as simple as finding work-integrated learning opportunities. So my thinking is that for now, since we have scheduled the meeting until 12, I think what may be useful is that those of us who are in the chat or on the call, in the chat, please post your ideas, even if you don't have work experience in the field. If you have any ideas in terms of how somebody could go about breaking into the public relations world, or where to find those networks or the opportunities that Amos also spoke about, please post that in the chat. I see that Amos has also posted his cell phone number and email address. He has invited you that you are more than welcome to also connect with him. And I guess, Amos, it's also okay for us to connect with you on LinkedIn then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I am just going to share a bit about the services that we offer at Counselling and Career Development. I'll keep it brief, and then we will take a look at the questions again just before we end the session. So in terms of counselling and career development support, we can support you with planning and managing your career. So those could, for example, be conversations with counsellors about what your next step could be, what are the qualifications that you could consider based on the career goals that you have. Then also managing your studies at Unisa. So if you need support in terms of learning skills specifically for the open distance and e-learning environment. Then we also offer support in terms of any challenges that may affect your study progress, including mental health support and also preparing for career opportunities. So that is what we would call graduateness and employability skills. Mando, I see that your hand is up. Would you like to say something?
Thank you, Lisa. If you can just finish going through our services at the Counselling and Career Development Unit, and then I just wanted to suggest that if Amos, before we proceed on the program, if you could just summarize on the issues of interview skills and networking skills, just as an appetizer for future focused talks on these two topics, because I think we need to conscientize students about them. And because with the interest of time, we couldn't get there, but just to conscientize students about networking skills as part of employability skills, just in about 2 or 3 minutes, and also interview skills. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mando. So I will invite Amos to share with us after I finish these slides. So just coming back to the counselling career development support, if you did not know, these services are free of charge. It's available to Unisa students, but also to alumni. So anyone who has previously studied at Unisa or who is even intending to study at Unisa has access to our services, and the services are also confidential, meaning that we don't share our discussions that we have with you individually with anyone else. Then just a brief overview. This morning you are attending the seminar due to us collaborating with the Department of Communication Science to present this for students. But throughout the year, we have scheduled a number of what we call career talks, as well as career focus events. If you check on the My Unisa events calendar regularly, you will see that we post information about the links, how to join or register for those sessions. I will share now the different topics that we're going to cover. The career talk aims to cover topics such as job searching, CV writing. We talk about interview preparation and so forth. We normally invite professionals from different industries to present to students during these events, and they normally take place on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but outside of exam times. Then with the career focus events, those are sessions where organizations approach us. They would want to share information about the opportunities with students. So we would then also post those invitations on My Unisa. And then maybe just save a date session on the 7th of August. We are organizing a college-specific career event for College of Human Sciences students. And during that event, we also again invite speakers from different industries, including from communication and public relations, to share with students what they can do to develop their career in that field. Then I'm not going to go through the list, but maybe just some events that you could look forward to. The next 2 events will be talking about job search preparation and skills required in the public sector. That is on the 11th of March, so that's tomorrow. And then also job searching in a changing world of work, and that will take place on the 13th of March. And then the rest of the topics, you will note, as I've mentioned, they speak about more detailed approaches to CV writing, interview skills. We talk about emotional intelligence and self-confidence, networking. We'll be having a session specifically about optimizing your use of LinkedIn, and then also confident communication with Toastmasters, In the second semester, we will mostly be focusing on those college career events that I mentioned, including the College of Human Sciences. And we also have opportunities for entrepreneurship and innovation sessions. Then we also invite you to join us for our virtual Grad Expo as well as Careers Fair events. So the virtual Grad Expo is a platform, an online platform that's available normally between May and August. And it is a platform that you can use then to get more information from different organizations about employment opportunities, but also work experience as well as bursary opportunities. And then twice in the year, there will be live events as part of the virtual Grad Expo, where you'll be able to chat with employers online and also attend webinars, getting the company information. And then the Careers Fair events upcoming on the 10th and the 11th of April. There will be on-campus career events for students in Durban and Pietermaritzburg, and those are general careers fair events. So there are, again, companies or organizations from different industries who will be sharing information about their opportunities. And then just to highlight some self-help resources that may be useful for you as a communication science student. There's a career research brochure where we talk about the different ways that you can go about doing research to help you plan your career, but also looking for opportunities. Then we have a specific brochure called Communication Science and Languages at Unisa. That's also a guide to help you prepare for career opportunities in these fields. And then there's the My Employability at Unisa brochure, which you can also download. And in this brochure, we also cover aspects of what we spoke about today, but also more detailed information about, for example, CV writing, networking, putting together a portfolio, and also further information about job searching. And then there are two books that I recommend you also take a look at. The first one is called Grad Next. It's a free book that's available for anyone to download. We've included a link as well as the code, the QR code that you can use. And as you can see from the cover, this book also focuses on aspects such as personal branding, preparing for an interview, how to look for a job, starting your own business, networking, and then also writing CVs and cover letters. And then the second publication that we could encourage you to take a look at is called the PNet Grad Pack. So this book also talks about CV writing and interview tips, but also talking about cleaning up your social media. And the brochure or the book also includes information about what employers are looking for in graduates, how do I negotiate salaries, what are the things included on a pay slip, how do I create a compelling CV, and so forth. So those two publications, in addition to the self-help resources that I shared with you, as well as attending all of these sessions that I shared with you, could certainly help you to think about how you could strategically do job hunting, but also all the aspects related to job hunting. So I will keep our contact details open as we end our program. So Amos, you heard Mandu's request. If there's anything that you can share as kind of parting words, but then also focusing on interview skills and networking.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. So there's so much I can share, but I'm just going to run through 5 slides, if that's okay with you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I had a couple of people that asked, about the structure of the CV, the format, and what should be included in it. So if you have, sorry, if you have a look here, this is the information that should be included in a CV. Personal information, objective or personal statement, as we said, education, professional experience, and then any research or publications that you have, your professional skills. Professional skills sometimes can be technical or interpersonal skills. Sometimes any systems as well that are industry specific that you use, and then awards and recognitions, like we said earlier. Professional membership, if you're a member of any professional body, and then lastly, your references. So this is kind of the format and the information that should be included in a CV. And then in terms of skills, like I said, computer literacy skills, leadership, communication skills, organizational know-how. So any systems, your people skills, teamwork, collaboration, problem solving, etc. So you can include these skills that you have. And what's important about this is that it adds a lot more meat to your CV, especially if you don't have any work experience. And then, like I said, there are quite a few CV building platforms or resume building websites that you can use. These are some of them. Canva has become very popular now, resume.com. So you shouldn't struggle to find the right tools. Earlier, I made an example about answering the question completely. It's actually called the STAR method interviewing question. So S in STAR stands for situation, T is task, A is action, and the R is result. So often you use it to explain how you handled a work-related challenge using the STAR interview method. So, like I said, situation, task, action, result. And here's just an example. At my last job in a restaurant, I once learned about health inspections near hours in advance. As the head chef, I was responsible for ensuring everything was in order in the kitchen. And the BOH, before the inspector arrived, I quickly called the team or employees from the last shift to help, leaving the others available to prep for that evening's dinner. As a result, we could ace the inspection or pass the inspection, which was less costly in the long run compared to giving employees a few hours of overtime. So this shows that you had a situation that could potentially have become a crisis, how you use your people skills and your leadership skills to get some people to attend to what needs to be done while the other ones are focusing on business as usual, and the outcome being positive, obviously. So in terms of, I think my parting shot, I think Umama also asked me to talk about interview skills. So once you've gotten a great CV, it then gets you the interview. The interview, I mean, there's so much information we have about interview skills. But what's critical to note about the interview is that you need to get your basics right. First and foremost, do your research about the company. There's nothing wrong with Googling or going to LinkedIn after you've asked who is interviewing you. I will never walk into an interview blindly, and nobody should. You should know who's interviewing you. What is their work experience? What is their level in the company? What's the organogram of the company? Because depending on who they are, the job they hold, and where they are on the organogram, you can tell what kind of questions they're going to ask you. Familiarize yourself with your own CV. Be prepared to talk through your work experience, and then familiarize yourself, on the other hand, on the job spec as well, so that you know exactly where the links are, how you are matched to this job. And then you stick to the basics. You arrive on time, you dress appropriately, you know, you look the part, and just enjoy the interview. The interview is your opportunity to market yourself, and you should know yourself well as a brand. You know, how best can I market myself? Just have fun. Remember to smile. Don't be too nervous. I believe that if a job is meant for you, you will get it. We each have a job that we are perfectly matched for. And if you don't get that job, you move on to the next one. I think my closing notes are that my experience being a recruiter is that I deal with a lot of people who become desperate after some time. Now, as an employer, I can tell you, we can sense desperation. When you become too desperate and you want a job too badly, we can sniff it. We can pick it up as recruiters. Employers can do the same thing. And just because you try too hard, you don't get the job. So don't allow yourself to become too desperate. Be chilled, but at the same time, show enthusiasm and interest in the role. When I say be chilled, I don't say become too laid back. Do your best and God will do the rest. It's really tough out there. Some people stay for years without a job. The other thing that we should also do as South Africans, as young South Africans, can't find a job in the line of work that you're looking for. I've already spoken about that, but I want to take it to the next level now. If you really can't find a job anywhere, think about how you monetize your own skills. The skills that you learned at varsity, the work experience that you've got, monetize it. Something with it. Sell your skill or learn a new skill. That's the other thing. Because there are just not enough jobs out there in the economy. Not everyone is going to find a job after studying. So what is a skill that you have? My oldest son is doing grade 10 now. He plays a lot of sport every weekend. In fact, they all play sport. But I was quite shocked the other day when I said to him, okay, grade 11 is your last year at school. We can't count grade 12. What is your plan? What do you want to study? And then he caught me off guard. He said to me, he wants to go to the US and play football. I'm like, what the hell? Where did that come from? But the point is that I cannot rely on my kids to just go to varsity, study, and then look for a job. I try and identify skills that they have that they can earn a living from. And there are many. It could be IT skills, it could be sport, it could be their personality, they could be, I don't know, good on social media or whatever that's new today. I think when you're in a situation when you can't find a job, look deep down in your personality. What is it that I can use to earn a living? Am I a good speaker? You know, am I good at counseling people, supporting people, giving advice? All of those things can be monetized, guys. You can earn a living, you can make money. The other day I was sitting with a lady who was a qualified CA. And after a long session that we had, we ended up at a point where she had a skill to do nails and massages and things. And I said to her, yes, you might be qualified at this, but this is what's going to earn you money right now. So let's have a broader think about earning a living. Do not allow your qualification for you to just narrow down your options to what you studied. The world is much more complex than that. But I want to wish you all the best and success. I wish you strength and resilience. Don't give up. Keep trying. Keep knocking on doors. Be more aggressive, but also have a plan. You know, sit, make lists. Every day, check your progress of how you're doing. Find a way to motivate yourself. Motivation comes from inside. If you're getting lots of no's from outside and rejections, motivate yourself, inspire yourself. I always say segment your life. If this part of your life called a job is not working, identify other parts that are doing well. It could be your health, it could be your family, it could be gym, it could be relationships, it could be a passion, and just make those bigger, spend more time so that you feel good about yourself. Do not allow the one part of your life that's not going well to influence the rest of your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amos, for those closing words. I'm now just going to invite Mr. Sondani from the Department of Communication Science to end off the session for us. Mr. Sondani, you are welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear my voice.
Yes, you're clear.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Program Director, for granting me this opportunity to deliver a thank you message. As a representative from the Department of Communication Science and the co-organizer for this informative and splendid seminar, first and foremost, I would like to thank the task team members, Professor Takarani Msanani, Mr. Mpaka, Ms. Makanya, and Ms. Daisel. All these people made sure that, even within a short period of time, we host or organize this informative seminar for our students. Of course, no vehicle can move without the driver. Therefore, I would like to, thank our guest speaker, Mr. Kova, who made sure that the seminar also took place. As a team, we thank you for spending this morning exposing students to what industries are looking for from students and graduates, and providing them with tips on crafting a CV, cover letter, searching for job opportunities, and preparing, for interviews with confidence. We highly appreciate that, and we strongly believe that you will always be a friend to our department. Again, I would like to extend a thank you message to our special audience, our students, for joining and attending this informative session. So I believe that you have taken notes that will always help you to familiarize yourselves with the job market and what it entails. I also believe that after this session, and completion of your qualification, you are going to be competent enough. Even in the future, always be on the lookout, for the more or upcoming seminars and workshops of this nature. Then I'm also extending a thank you message to Professor Mkudwana, our chair of the department, seminar, and to allow us to prepare and host the seminar for the benefit of the students. So your leadership is highly recognized, Prof. Then there are colleagues among us who are attending, and I want to thank them, for attending and supporting this seminar. So to the Counselling and Career Development Directorate, represented by Ms. Makanya and Ms. Daisel, I will say, who are we without you? Thank you so much for the partnership and co-organizing this online gathering. And, out of the congruence that we had earlier on telephonically, we would like to keep this partnership for the rest of 2025 academic year. Thank you so much, and back to the program director.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sondani. Again, thank you also from the Directorate for Counselling and Career Development. Thank you for your eager participation and all the questions that we received. I've posted a link to our evaluation form, so we would appreciate it if you could take some time to evaluate this morning's seminar. And this is not the last time that you'll be seeing us, so all the best until we meet again. Thank you very much.